Namaste and welcome to Krishna Katha Book Club for the month of March, in which Lord Chaitanya's appearance is remembered around the world. In this mood, we will glorify the Caitanya Caritamrta, written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in around 1557. He describes that the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya are like a lake with many beautiful lotus flowers, which are love for Radha and Krishna. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was already elderly when one night Lord Nityananda appeared in a dream to him and declared, "O my dear Krishnadas, do not be afraid. Go to Vrindavan, for there you will attain all things." Thus, receiving the mercy of Lord Nityananda in his dream, he started for Vrindavan with a joyful mind. Then, with the blessings of the deity Sri Madana Mohanaji, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami began writing a biography of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, called the Caitanya Caritamrta. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's body was racked with pain, and he could not comfortably stand or sit down. His hands shook, his eyesight and hearing were failing, but still he wrote in Bengali the most sublime and extensive poem about Lord Chaitanya and his pastimes. It is described in a purport in the Srimad Bhagavatam. If a person is Krishna conscious, he can work like a young man, even if he is 75 or 80 years old. Thus, the daughter of Kala, time, cannot overcome a Vaishnava. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami engaged in writing Caitanya Caritamrta when he was very old, yet he presented the most wonderful literature about the activities of Lord Chaitanya. This treasure remained in India for hundreds of years until Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada translated it into English. He once wrote, "We are trying to present Sri Caitanya Caritamrta in English, but do not know how successful it will be." For this month's book club, I would like to present the amazing story of how the 17-volume Caitanya Caritamrta was printed in English in a very short time, due to Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's intense desire to give to the West this beautiful poem by the great Vaishnava poet Krishnadas Kaviraj. Here is a condensed presentation of a personal description from one of the devotees involved in the printing of the multi-volume publications in 1975. He begins, "We were on a morning walk at Venice Beach. Towards the end, Bhaktivedanta Swami asked, 'And how long will you work to produce the unpublished books?' I replied, 'Srila Prabhupada, we think we can increase production 4 times. We can go from 1 book every 4 months to producing 1 of your books every month.' Bhaktivedanta Swami kept walking, and he said, 1 book every month? That means it will take over 1 year. He said, 'It's not fast enough.' Then he said, 'You must do all the books in 2 months.' And he just kept walking. Everyone was looking at my friend and I. We were looking at each other and we were sure Bhaktivedanta Swami didn't mean it. We were sure he wasn't serious. So I began to speak again and said, 'Prabhupada, when you take into consideration the artists and the indexing and all the different things, I don't really think it's possible to do all the remaining 14 books in 2 months.' Bhaktivedanta Swami again stated, 'No, you must do all of the books in 2 months.' It was at that moment I realized he was serious. My friend and I looked at each other in complete disbelief. We couldn't believe Bhaktivedanta Swami was asking us to do this. So I said, 'Prabhupada, I think it's impossible to do this.' Then he put his cane very firmly down in front of him and stopped. He turned and looked at me, and everybody froze. And very gravely, very seriously, Prabhupada said, 'Impossible is a word found in a fool's dictionary.' The mood on the morning walk from that moment completely shifted. Everyone was looking at us like, 'Come on, you have to do it.' That was the mood. We were just becoming overwhelmed by the whole mood that Prabhupada had created, and all of his devotees were supportive. We were trying to collect our thoughts. I asked Bhaktivedanta Swami if we could have a meeting back at the press, discuss it with all the devotees, and then meet with him again. He said, 'Oh yes, whatever is required.' Right after the morning program, we called an emergency meeting of all the devotees at the press, and we talked the whole thing out. We had already decided that we were going to form 2 production lines. One of the devotees, who was the fastest editor, was going to edit the Madhya Leela, the middle pastimes. Another would do the Antya Leelas, the later pastimes. So these 2 books consisted of 14 volumes. We had previously printed the 3 volumes of the Adi Leelas, the first pastimes, and these had taken us about 10 months. We began to calculate what would be needed and how many people we would need, and we just started mapping the whole thing out. We presented it to all the devotees. We convinced everyone, this is what we're going to do and it can be done. Prabhupada said it can be done. After we had a plan, we went to Bhaktivedanta Swami and said, 'Prabhupada, we think it's possible.' He was sitting in his room and he said, I replied, 'But there are several things that we think are going to be required for this to actually happen. A lot of the work with the Bengali editing requires constantly asking you questions.' And Prabhupada said, 'So I am prepared to stay here for as long as it takes and make time every day.' The men can come and see me. I'll set aside time. I'll make it a new part of my daily schedule." Then I said, "Prabhupada, to illustrate the books, we always needed paintings to sell these books." He said, "Just paint as many as you can." I replied, "Well, they may not be of good quality because we'll be rushing to meet the deadlines." He responded, "I understand, but a blind uncle is better than no uncle. So whatever you have got, you put it in the books." And then I said, "Prabhupada, to read all the manuscripts and to plan out the paintings, we're going to have to ask you a lot of questions. We also need time to talk to you about understanding how to illustrate all the different leelas." He said, "Yes, I am prepared. I can make time for that also." We had already established in the first 3 volumes that we were using photographs, so we discussed with Bhaktivedanta Swami the use of photographs. He responded that he still wanted photographs because they added historical authenticity to the books. The book printing marathon starts, with Bhaktivedanta Swami agreeing to stay for at least a month and make time on a daily basis, as much time as possible. We felt that we had a chance. When we left Prabhupada's room, we ran down the stairs and the race was on. There were daily meetings with Prabhupada. The Bengali men were coming in every day with their questions, and I was coming in every day with our questions. The mood was exhilarating. Bhaktivedanta Swami had already done all the translation and commentary, so I'll just describe the organising for the printing of these books. 1. Reading the manuscript. The first thing that I did was sit down and read all the manuscripts. It took about a day and a half of just locking myself in an office. Devotees were bringing me my food. I would sleep there. Actually, I don't think I did sleep. I just continually read for a day and a half, and we planned all the photographs that we wanted. So 2 photographs. We called a devotee into the office and said, "Okay, you have to go to India right away and you have to take all these photographs." We showed him the list and he agreed. So within a matter of 2 days, he had the list for the next 14 books with what pictures to take, and he left and went to India. 3. Artists. Then we started planning with the artist all the paintings that we wanted to have. And at that time, a new artist had just joined. He had a lot of experience as a commercial artist with landscapes, seascapes. He was such a proficient artist that he could lay an entire landscape down in a matter of 1 or 2 days. So we developed a production system where this man, whose name was Hector, would work on every single canvas, and all the artists would be laying in the figures. All the artists would first work with basic sketches. Prabhupada was there, so we would take the sketches to him and have them approved, and Hector would lay in the backgrounds during the day, and the artist would paint during the night, and 24 hours a day each canvas was being worked on. 4. Production team. Then, for the production system, we had a shortage of manpower. We started firing off newsletters all over the world. We need help. We need indexes. We need layout men. We need composers. We need this. We need that. And all the devotees became so astonished that Prabhupada had challenged us to produce all the 14 books in just 2 months. and there was practically universal cooperation. So in this way, key people from all around were being sacrificed and sent to the press for the 2-month marathon. Within a matter of 1 week, all the necessary devotees that we needed had arrived. 5. Equipment. For most of the equipment at the press, I tried to have the devotees working a day shift and a different group working a night shift. But for some departments and for some key devotees, we worked both the day shift and the night shift. So in this way, we actually had the equipment in use on a round-the-clock basis. 6 proofreaders. The proofreaders were literally losing their mind. The manuscripts were coming in and out of their hands so fast. One devotee's job was to bring the manuscript over to a proofreader after each revision came off the typesetter, and giving them a certain amount of time and not caring whether they were finished or not, he would run back, grab the manuscript from them and just give it back to the composers for the corrections. And in this way, it was just driving the proofreaders wild. 7. The artists. The artists especially were actually going crazy. Late at night, like about 2 a.m, when one artist would fall asleep, I would take their canvas secretly out of their room and bring it to whichever artist was still awake, so that at no time was there ever a moment when the painting was not being worked on. We had 4 artists beforehand, and now we had about 13 for this marathon. By Krishna's arrangement, the size of the art department had tripled. Anybody that knew how to hold a brush, we threw them in there. The artists were threatening to kill me because I would take their painting, which they only had a week to work on, and I would give it to somebody who was even more tired than them, but somehow was forcing themselves to stay awake. Sleep. Literally, you would see devotees draped on equipment, draped on desks and typewriters and over their easels or their chairs at 2 or 3 in the morning, just completely unconscious. They would sleep in their rooms, they would wake up, I guess they would take showers, and they would just start again. The average press devotee was sleeping 2 or 3 hours at the most. 9. Meals. All prasadam was honoured inside the press building in 1 or 2 huge gulps. We had crews of LA temple devotees bringing the prasadam over to the press, so no one ever had to leave. 10. Drivers. We had about 3 or 4 drivers that were racing constantly, every day, taking film to be developed, bringing it back, and so on. 11. The impossible was happening. The atmosphere in the press was like a dream. The fact that the impossible was happening just wasn't real. And as a result of being in the midst of something that was so impossible and yet becoming true right in front of our eyes, we were becoming giddy. We were becoming like little children. We were losing our grip. Actually, sometimes we would literally laugh for hours. As we would realize that it's actually happening, the impossible is taking place, we would just start laughing. It became so contagious that every night the press devotees at around 1 or 2 or 3 a.m, you would hear hysterical laughter coming out of the press rooms. And this was going on for weeks. 12. The printers. The printer and the paper mills couldn't believe we were going to pull off what we were proposing to them. They said, if we can make our deadlines, they'll make their deadlines. The printer, the American printer, this was the first time we were working with him. He knew that we printed many books, and of course we were about to print 14 books, 20,000 copies. So right there was around 300,000 hard-bound books. And he knew that we just printed 350,000 Bhagavad Gitas with Dai Nippon. So the printer was extremely anxious to snatch our business away from Dai Nippon. I told him, "You make these deadlines and you've got our business." So the printer met with his top management. This was the largest hardbound printer in America, Kingsport Press, division of Arcata. They met with the president and decided that we want this account badly enough. We're going to stop, we're going to push back all our other jobs, and we're going to work around the clock. We're going to free other presses, free the bindery. We're going to completely wipe out all our other customers for a month or two. And we're just going to do Bhaktivedanta books. It was all part of the miracle that was taking place. 13. Advanced copies. The first time my friends and I went to the airport to pick up the advanced copies, there were 5 volumes. 3 volumes of the Madhya Leela and 2 volumes of the Antya Leela came in the first run. It was 2 a.m. and we drove to the airport and picked up the books. For 8 weeks the devotees had almost given up eating and sleeping. So here we were at the airport. We picked up the books. We rushed back to the temple. We put the books on the altar to offer them to the deities. And at Mangalartik, nobody knew what was going on, except they were surprised to see us at Mangalartik. The doors opened and the whole temple room was stunned. Hundreds of devotees were just staring at these 5 new books. The miracle that was taking place hit everybody all at once. It just struck everyone that it's actually going to happen. Each volume had between 8 and 11 new paintings and 4 to 7 pages of colour photographs. So there were over 100 paintings executed by this group of artists in a 2-month period. That works out to something like 1 painting a week for each artist. Sketched, put onto the canvas, coloured in, painted, the whole thing. 14. All volumes. On August the 12th, I wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada. By now, he was back in India. I mailed it to Delhi, and in this letter I wrote, "Today our composers finished the last volumes of Caitanya Caritamrta, and by Wednesday next week, August the 20th, all of the volumes will be at the printers." I felt this was one of the most important letters I had ever written to Bhaktivedanta Swami. It was in the midst, or I would say towards the end of this marathon. We had started in early July, so this was August the 12th, and we were almost finished the whole Caitanya Caritamrta. We were so caught up in the ecstasy that devotees were coming up to me and saying, "What are we going to do when it's all done? We're not going to have any more work to do. We can't live without working on Prabhupada's books." This was the mood of all the devotees in the press. On August the 21st, we sent a telegram to Srila Prabhupada. This was Lord Balaram's appearance day, and we wrote, "By the mercy of Lord Balaram Nityananda, the last volume of Caitanya Caritamrta is leaving today for the printer. By your mercy and divine order, it is done." On August the 31st, we picked up the final volumes of Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. The final 6 volumes of the 17-volume set had just arrived from the printer. We had tried so hard to get these books to Prabhupada for his appearance day. So on August 31st, I scribbled a letter to Prabhupada, and then I flew the books to India with one of the devotees. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada wrote me a letter from the Krishna Balaram Mandir in India on September the 1st. Please accept my blessings. I am in due receipt of your letter dated August the 31st, 1975, and the 6 new volumes of Caitanya Caritamrta. So the books have increased and they are all very nicely done. I think I may stop all touring and just sit down here for translating. You have taken seriously the publishing and also the distribution of these books, and that is the success of our mission. You have taken seriously this work, and I know that my Guru Maharaj is pleased with you because he wanted this. So, by this your endeavour, you will all go back home, back to Godhead. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami would drop everything when a new book appeared. Whatever was going on in the room, whatever business was there, he would just stop and take the books, hold them on his head, and begin looking through them, page by page, picture by picture. All glories to the glorious Caitanya Caritamrta. All glories to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. All glories to Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada.